All right, so Zann, take us from the top. I want to hear all about your business. I want to hear like from the beginning, like how'd you get into this? How'd you get into painting this, and bring us to today?
Sure. Okay. So yeah, most of what I do is custom portraits, and I just got into that um, early. Like when I was a kid, I would do them, and then I had this whole great big career in sales and marketing. Great big, just a little career in sales and marketing, and really wanted to work for myself. And so it was just, what's the most bootstrappable thing I know how to do? Well, painting is really cheap, and you can sell it. The amount of hours that you put into it versus the price you can sell it for is good. So I started doing that and just switched over to doing it pretty much full time a couple years ago. Did like a 1 year test where I would work part time and basically try every marketing thing I could come up with, whether it was craft shows or going into galleries or um, doing prints, doing whatever came into my head. I was just like, there's no bad ideas, just invest a bit in it, try it out. And that took about a year to become kind of profitable instead of eating more money than it produced. So now, last year I started thinking, well, what's scalable out of this? What could I do that would be a bit more of a build it and let it earn type thing instead of always having to do commissions, because it does take a lot of effort to coordinate those. So I've done some sales through galleries, not often, and I thought, well, I'll try out this print thing. Uh, yeah, and I mean, I followed a lot of the steps that, Art Storefront provides a ton of really, really good material. That's actually why I bought into the system, was for the marketing material more so than the website. Um, but there are some missing steps that I've gotten stuck on, and just building that audience or knowing how to create realistic numerical goals to hit when you're building a website, or building a following, how to know whether the thing you're doing is working, but slowly, or whether it's not working is a big challenge.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you, just so I understand it correctly, so when you started doing like part time testing it
Mm.
out, were you simply just promoting the fact that you could do custom portraits of dogs?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you were going to fair art craft shows and stuff, what were you selling there?
There I would promote my custom work. So I'd have my business cards and I'd have my flyers and all that, but I would sell like little crafty things, cards and magnets and stickers and things, just basically to have something at the booth to sell.
Interesting. So you didn't have any prints yet to sell.
I've tried taking prints to shows. So the last 4 shows I did, I have a whole bunch of sample prints from a guy who ordered a series of pieces from me. He wanted to sell prints of them, but didn't really know how. Has since asked me how, and I've been like, no, I get my own problems. But I've certainly taken prints to shows and promoted them there. I've never really gotten much interest in them.
Interesting. So the only thing so people, I presume you would show your work like in the booth somehow, and then people
Yeah,
would
in
say, I
fact,
want to do one. How much does it cost? Right?
yeah, I could even, if I can drag and drop stuff, I could show you exactly what I did. I've got loads of
That would
photos
be
of it.
cool. Is it on your website at all? Because I've got your website pulled up, both of them.
It might be in the events section. No, I think I took it down from the events because it's not current anymore.
Is it
Um,
possible to do that, you guys? Can you drop an image in here? Oh yeah, there's a file thing right there.
yeah, where's that? Share
There's
screen
a
presentation.
line of three dots at the bottom that says more. If you click on that, there should be a chat option.
3 dots. Chat. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to try dragging the thing in there. If I, file, even better. So let's bring up Lady Smith one. So here's like an example of a recent craft fair that was just in November.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So what are those canvas prints right there that I see on the right-hand side?
Those are like, what are they? Like what size or?
No, I mean like, are those commissions that you did that then you just ordered a print to be able to show it?
Those ones are part of that series that this guy ordered to do prints of. Since it's
Oh.
non-exclusive with him, I can also sell them.
I
And I
see.
have a whole
Okay, I
bunch of
see down
samples.
there. Fine art prints, $78. Okay. And so what you're saying is that you would show prints like this and people didn't really buy any?
Not really, no.
So they would only opt for getting one custom made of their own dog.
I wouldn't say only. There was also interest in originals. Like I had one from like the Shaggy Friends series, which is the ones that are just like really woolly looking dogs. And I had one of the really tall ones, and I got some interest on those. And I've sold originals from that same series before. So people, like, if they think that it looks like their dog, they'll totally buy it, even though it's the same price as getting a custom piece. But I really haven't had much interest in prints.
That's really interesting.
I know. That's why I was like, well, I guess, okay, if this style of thing isn't really selling, like, where else can I go with it?
Well,
As-
let me ask you though. Let me ask you, like, did doing the craft fairs and selling your custom work and whatever type of craft, whatever you were doing at those shows, did
Mhm.
that work? Like, because you said you went to full time at some point.
I
So
did.
I'm wondering where was your income?
Where does it come from?
Where were you generating sales from? Was it specifically from these shows?
No, they account for maybe 5% of my business. It's enough to pay for itself and then some, but I get a lot of subscribers out of them. The place that I get my business is almost a 50-50 split between Google Ads and posters that I slap up on dog poop bag boxes.
On dog, say that again?
We in town we have well, actually you might have them where you are too, but we have at parks dog poop bag dispensers, and they usually have a square lid, and I slap a poster on there.
You just like a sticker.
Yep. A laminated piece of paper, print it out, stick it on with tape. Everywhere I go, I leave a trail of sticky posters behind me, and I get a lot of traffic.
Pat, does that work hard or what?
Sorry?
Oh yeah, it's a great hack. That's a great hack there. I love it.
No, it's an inside joke, but we won't even go into it. We won't even go into it. But we were involved in a business, Pat and I, where there was stickering, so to speak, done like that.
Yeah.
And it's a warm place in our heart.
Yep, for sure.
But we get it. We totally get it. Okay, that's really interesting. And then so you would slap a sticker on there, and then and that sticker would promote what? That, like, custom portraits from Zann?
It wasn't actually a sticker. It's a poster or a flyer. So it shows my work in pretty good detail, and it tells a little bit about like I've done some tests to see kind of what works a bit with not great data collection on those, but I've tried ones that show the starting price. I've tried ones that show process of the work being painted. This year I'm going to do ones that show the reference material as well as the final piece. But really it's just like 4 or 5 images of paintings, my website, my contact information, and I get a lot of calls from those.
Got it. So you get, okay, got it. And you're still doing that, presumably?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Okay, so that's the driver of your business.
It's one of the two. The other one is just Google ad campaigns, because there's a lot of people who will, they get themselves to the end of the funnel. They've decided they want a dog portrait, and then they just go and search online, dog portraits, my area. And as long as I can bid for that top keyword, I get them. And I can.
Is that exclusive to Canada? Are you only advertising in Canada?
I'm only advertising in Canada at the moment, yes.
Got it. And who manages that for you? Just out of curiosity, are you doing that yourself or?
I do that myself. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
It's easy to bid to the top of, of Google when you're selling something that's like $600 on average. Not so good when your margins are tighter though. So I can't really do that for prints.
right. So, okay, let's keep going here. So are you had mentioned this in one of the emails or whatever that you sent, I think. I may be wrong, but feel free to clarify. It sounded like you're tired of doing custom portraits.
It's not that I'm tired of it. It's that I don't think it's scalable. So eventually you hit kind of a ceiling with how many hours a week can you sell. It is also a lot of work that's not painting.
Well,
Most of what I do for
totally
someone
true.
is painting.
How many hours does it take you to complete one, like with a client, like from start to finish?
The whole process of
Yes.
like from when they first contact me to when I can kind of have it shipped is probably 8 hours of work.
Okay.
And maybe 3 of them are spent painting.
Okay. Interesting. And how much do you make? Like, how much do you sell them for?
They start at 275 and they go up to about 2,000.
Okay.
Most of what I sell is in the $600 to $800 range, though.
Okay.
Very, very locally, I sell a lot of the like $300 ones.
It's really interesting. Okay, so I've got a couple of thoughts, and I'm just going to say them out loud,
Go for it.
just so that it's not necessarily advice. It's just entrepreneur thoughts, right?
Mhm.
That I'm thinking about is that number one up front is, when you're starting a business or when you're trying to grow a business, you have to listen to what the market is telling you, right?
Mhm.
And when you get traction somewhere, the whole goal is to pour gasoline on the area that you have traction,
Mhm.
right? And do that first before you do anything else,
Yep.
right?
I
And
think
so,
I made that mistake last year of not really focusing on what works.
yeah, and that's why I'm like, I'm not even worried about the prints right now.
Mhm.
Like, I see why you want to go there, but I
It's an
see
eventually goal. Like I'm not capped out on what I can do with custom work.
right, and I think that there's other creative ways to get to where you want to be, but it will probably be a process, and like it probably needs a little bit more creativity in terms of how you do it. But what I'm thinking is like, number one, how do you max out on that first, on what is working?
Mhm.
Make yourself the most income that you possibly can on that, right? And what does that mean? That means taking what you were already doing and maxing that out, right? Exact same strategy. And then number two is once you're kind of there, or right when you're getting up there, you can start. Well, you could start doing this right away, but you could start testing other things where you're like, hey, if you buy a print, whether it's a limited edition, I don't know. Like I don't know if it's,
Connect the two, in other words.
what's that?
Find a way to cross promote and connect the two.
Yeah, because you could
If you
give
buy one, you get a discount on the other.
That's right. Well, or what it's like, hey, my original is going to cost you for a custom portrait $1,000. Like, are you sure you don't want to buy a print for $199 right now?
Well, I wouldn't want to do that because I'd only ever see like 30 of those dollars.
You'd only see 30 of those dollars.
The biggest problem I have with like prints that aren't under my direct control as to where I get them is that shipping is half the cost of buying anything. And then there's the cost of making it. And then there's what I get to keep.
But the customer pays for shipping.
If they paid $200 and that was like, they want to buy that thing, and that's what they're willing to spend, then shipping is kind of in that, how much are they willing to spend realm.
Well, that's your business decision, but that's not, you don't have to be doing that.
No, what I mean is I don't include shipping in my prints. But if someone goes on there and they're like, ooh, I want to buy this print, and they look at it and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go for it. Okay, it's like $80. Let's do it. And they get to checkout and shipping is $99. Their
Right,
budget wasn't $90 if they bought it. Their budget was $180. And if
but we're not talking about that right now, right? We're talking about the guy who is, going to buy an $800 or $1,000 piece,
yeah,
who has the money, and
yeah,
and you're giving them the option to be like, hey, let's save the 8 hours of work or all this process. You want to save some money? Go buy it right now off my website. If not, I'll do it for you, right?
yeah. I think that the opportunity might be with ones where they're buying more that $200 range. Like I see what you're saying, and this is kind of nitpicking. It's just I wouldn't want to downsell someone from $1,000 portrait, because the amount of effort that it takes to make a portrait is really in the client communication, and that's the same for a $200 piece as it is for like a $1,500 piece. It's the same amount of back and forth.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think, in some ways, you're kind of answering your own question about the prints right there, right?
It would be, the occasional person who wants a $200 portrait, I'd be like, well, I've got that breed for, a comparable price, and it's larger, if you want to go that way.
Right. So, so then the other thing is, okay, so there's no real correlation. The thought that I had is, if I came to you with a Sharpay picture, right? And I said, I want to do a custom portrait. And then you showed me, call it 3 to 5 Sharpays. You don't have those, but let's just say that was the case. Yeah. And you're like, hey, Nick, I can do the custom for $1,000, but if you want to just buy it off my website right now, you can buy one of these for $199 plus shipping. I would absolutely look at them. Yeah. And I would see if one of those fit, and I would literally buy it on the spot, like for my wife, and then be done. I'm just assuming that online you have to just accept what that is. As soon as you get outside of that and there's a bunch of communication, then it's really a custom job at that point, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But anyways, I think the broader point there is about, like, you had something, you built something that's been working, and I'm like, when I look at what's working and I say, you want to pour gasoline on that, the first thought in my head is, how many parks are there in the United States and Canada that have, dog parks that have these things that you can put on them? And I'm not kidding at all.
I know. I've got a road trip planned this summer to go all the way across as far as I can get in Canada and post everything there. Yeah, totally.
And then how can you expand the Google AdWords strategy beyond what you're currently doing into the U.S. market, and see if you can make that profitable as well, and then kind of max yourself out with that, and then try some. I think like another thing that you could. When you do a custom job, is your clients, like, are you not allowed to sell that painting to anybody else? I'm assuming, right?
Well,
or are they cool?
I haven't actually brought it up with my clients. I wrote it into my terms that I'm allowed to, just because awesome. I like covering my ass. But I haven't actually brought it up with them, and that's something that I've been looking for the right way to do it without. I might not do it for memorials or ones where people, I think, are just too, emotionally fraught at the time. But for ones that are gifts and things, that might be a really good thing to do, especially if they get a portrait and they buy it for their family and they have family members that don't live in that home. I can say, get a portrait, and I will put it up in my print store. And that way, if anyone else in your family wants one, I'll give you a discount. I'll give you it at wholesale, but they'll be aware that it's up in the print store for sale.
Yeah, that's a good idea. The way that I was thinking about it, just from a pricing standpoint, is an exclusive product will always carry a higher price point. So there's potentially a premium there. But in doing this whole thing and scaling all of that stuff up, you're gonna end up, like, your customers are going to end up paying you to build this incredible inventory
Mhm.
of all these different dogs portraits that will go on your site for the prints. And but the prints should get 5% of your focus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's something that may end up tipping later on.
Mhm.
It may end up really taking off at some point, and the market is there. I think we all agree on that. It was the first thing that Pat and I said when we were looking at your site. And but the hardest thing in any business is getting a single marketing channel to work.
Mm.
Like it doesn't matter what business you're in. If you don't get a single marketing channel to work, the business is over. It's dead. You
Yeah.
actually have two.
Yeah, that's
You've
true.
you've got two, and you're kind of, when you're doing this whole print thing, it's almost like you're seeking out a third, and like,
Don't do that. Focus on the two.
I'm like,
Gotcha.
don't do it. And a lot of the times, Dan, I when I'm talking to other business owners like this, when like this situation happens all the time where, I was talking to somebody else in the art business who, it had something to do with like, they were doing Christian art, and then they really just didn't want to do Christian art anymore. They didn't want to be labeled as that. And I was like, yet when I'm on the call with them, everything about what they're telling me is how they're just changing lives of these customers of theirs that are buying their Christian art. And I'm like, they're sitting here trying to go become like a landscape artist when like these people are literally dragging art out of you, like paying you to do it, And and like, thank you so much for just waking me up on that. I was like, I talked myself into making it sound harder than it was, and I do that too myself, Zann. I'm not like, I've done it throughout my entire career, like you're doing something and you kind of convince yourself that like, wait, there's an easier way. I don't like doing this, but it happens to be the thing that's really working, and then you just need you need to implement some creativity in there. Like, for example, if you don't love doing the portraits, like you have in the back of your mind, like maybe you can find like, eventually, like down the road. And I don't know that this is a good idea. This is like
riffing.
Yeah. Food for thought, right? Like maybe you can find a college student or somebody else, a starving artist, because there's plenty of them that are extremely talented
If you
that
get an
can
audience.
actually do the painting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, and they'll do it for a full-time job. But when you're doing that level of volume, you could be paying them, I don't know, $50,000 a year or something like that. They're thrilled because all they're doing is painting all day with music on, right? Yeah. And like, it's a win-win, a huge win-win, right? So, and then if you grow even bigger than that, you get two, you get three, three of them. So there's a way to scale that.
That's a good point. Artists have been doing that for centuries.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. There's this really, really big company in LA. They're called the Left Bank Art Group. And they're a customer of mine from another company, a really big customer. And I went in there, and these guys are really secretive, like about their process. Like they don't really let people on the inside, but they let me on the inside because they were having major problems with their production, like their printing production. These guys have like 30 printers. I mean, they're massive. They sell to like Target, Bed Bath & Beyond. They're the ones doing the canvas prints for those companies. And they do the original paintings too, like the really, really cheap original paintings. So I go in there, and sure enough, there is like, what do you even call it? I mean, like a farm, like a cubicle farm, but of easels. I'm talking like 10 rows of like 20 easels at least, where artists were sitting down, just painting all day long and like copying a painting.
Yeah.
Like, and these guys they were incredible. They were incredible, right? Like the quality of the work was extremely high. And this was in Los Angeles. So these people were getting paid to do that.
Yeah,
like
totally.
production painting, right? And so I only say that as an example of like, you can think potentially that way as a way of scaling the business that's working for you,
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing too is just that focus on what works is underutilized, undergiven advice. Because you look online and, you know, you start off with this, you know, how to market art handbook. And I'm like, all right, let's go through and let's look at it. And it's very like advice forward. It's here's the things to do versus a more question forward approach, which is like, well, what has worked in the past? What has gotten me where I am? And if I can just focus on that, it's not about changing what I'm doing. It's just about keeping on doing it and doing more of it. And I think that's totally where I've gotten sidetracked, 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's where to go and let everything else kind of fall in line. Like, you know, Bill Stidham, you've probably seen him in our marketing a bit. He does like, you know, like the rock stars and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he built his business doing the shows, right? So he went to art fairs and he went to, you know, music, like, you know, Coachella, Lollapalooza, things like that,
Yeah.
you know, and would have a booth at those shows. And he put like, I forget what he said, like 500,000 miles on his truck over a period of years. But the whole thing was, but now today, you know, like, or you could say a couple of years ago for sure, but he has a thriving online business. He has his own physical art gallery, right? Mm-hmm. And yet he still goes to the shows. He doesn't do it the way that he used to, but he still does a lot of the shows because that's what worked for him. That was his primary customer acquisition method. And then he utilized all of those clients that he got, you know, like as he was doing all of that, and he was constantly emailing them and, you know, and he built his online business from that, you know, like got them onto social media, got them to follow him, which led to other clients and all of that stuff. But he didn't start, you know, he didn't start his like online business by like just trying to build an audience online, right? He started it offline. He focused on what was working. He poured gasoline on it. And the way he did that was literally going across the country to every show that he possibly could.
Cool. Yeah, that's
I have
yeah.
Sorry, Pat, I've been like dominating this call, but you need to get in here.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It was perfect. Ironically enough, I was able to put it on mute, literally take my dog in to the vet, have a shot, and just get out. So I feel very, very efficient right now. To your point, Nick, one thing I got to say that's just funny. So there's that famous British artist named Damien Hirst, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's his name. And he has this famous painting of like dots that he sells, and they're not cheap. Like an original is like 30 grand or whatever. He hasn't painted a single solitary one of them. He did the original one. Every other original one is done by his understudies. He doesn't paint any of them. Can you imagine that? The guy's collecting that big of a check, not even painting. Amazing. Anyway, independent of that, I've got a couple of thoughts. One, big picture, I love what Nick said about doubling down on what's working. There's no question about that. You can max out the commission side of the business and you can eventually raise the prices there. I love that. I love the super hacky, put the images up on the dog poopy things. I wouldn't even worry about the road trip individually. I would get on every single solitary Craigslist and every single solitary province and get somebody that's willing to put those up for you, that's a pet lover, have a conversation with them.
Yeah, like just pay people to do it.
Specify make sure they're a pet lover.
Send them a picture, and as soon as I get a picture, send them some money.
Absolutely.
Yep, I would, and not only that, I would forge lasting friendships because given my previously alluded to experience, the problem with these damn things is sometimes the city workers like to take them down. And need somebody to put them right back up when they come down. So I would find somebody that's a dog lover. I would probably, this is exactly what I would do. And it's a strong strategy. I would find dog walkers in each of those provinces.
There's a good idea.
I would deputize the dog walker. I would say, here's the deal. I'm going to send you these laminated things. I will mail them to you. I want you to stick them on all the dog poop receptacles. I know where they are in the town. Yeah. And what I'm going to do is I will pay you the first time for the first batch. In order to keep you accountable, I want this to be a long-term relationship. I'm going to make sure that I get some feedback from them. If I do, I will give you one small portrait for free of your dog and we can continue the relationship. And you just keep doing that till you go hit or miss. I would cover every province in Canada. I'd work my way down from there. If that continues to pay, I think that's pretty incredible. That's number one.
Great idea. I love the idea of deputizing.
Number two, I always talk about perspective. How long have you actually had the business online? And how long have you been actively just your website up, actively marketing the business online?
About 3 years for my Paws by Zann, about 1 for Van Isle Dog Art.
Okay. So you're 3 years. So you should go ahead. Nick.
But the prints only almost a year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's
almost a year
what you're focusing on marketing online, right?
It depends on whether you count the Google AdWords for the Paws by Zann one or the custom portrait site. That one I've been marketing online since day one, which is about 3 years. But I never really did social media or YouTube or content marketing.
Right.
All it was just straight up scooping up the cream of the crop off Google.
Got it. So let's say a year, let's just say throw a year out there from the time you actually started marketing socially. And, I've seen what your follower accounts look like on, at least Instagram. I check Facebook. I don't know. The larger point is any digital entity, everybody thinks that it grows 10 times faster than it does. It takes time. It takes the grind. It takes the long winter, the lonely months where you feel like this is just a waste of my time. What am I doing? And it takes a while to build. So your best benefit is it sounds like you have one working revenue source that's going to get you through that whole time. So your most important thing in all of your marketing is that you're building some attention that you own, i.e. an email list, and the addresses and the phone numbers are also a part of that. And then continuing to grow those social followings. And as the business evolves, that will continue to grow and pay dividends for you. But it takes a very good clip of time. And it just does. And you have to actively be hitting it. I think I always just say that because the perspective piece is so important. In terms of the prints, I get the print situation. First of all, the prints will always be low margin. And so I have a follow-up point to that for a second. But who knows if prints of other people's dogs is even really a viable thing in the first place. It might not be. It might be an extremely low volume thing, period. And that's okay. You suss that out and you figure it out. I think that's okay for a number of reasons. One, you find it out, you don't waste any time on it. Two, throwing this out there, but I looked at your homepage, I looked at your images. It's very clear that, whether you consider yourself a really good artist or not, you're really good with the brush. You have very good definition. So I wouldn't leave out, pivoting on subject material for prints, or if not, if it's dogs, if you say, I'm only going to do dogs, I love dogs, it's what I know, throwing some sort of extra level of spin in there, i.e. crazy colors or something abstract or something along those lines to make it less about me and my dog and more about, wow, that's a really cool French bulldog. That's just an idea.
Or that's even just a good art that would work in like an interior design situation. I think the biggest thing that is working against that very portrait style print is that it doesn't look good in a modern interior. It looks bad.
For sure. It's just not in style. So you can find out what is in style, and given your chops that I see you have with a paintbrush. I'm not saying that to puff your ego up. I know you got skills. I saw it. There's some very good detail for a brush. It's not easy to do. I know that's not easy to do. I look at art all day. So I think you've got the skills. You've got the skills to figure out something that is not so personalized, i.e. this is my pet Higgins. That's my dog's name, Higgins. Don't make fun of it. It was my wife's idea. But, instead of that and say, oh my gosh, this is a really cool sheepadoodle, right? And like, I just left the vet's office and there were canvas prints of dogs all inside, all over it. And they were all like jazzy pop art looking things. Kind of like that Warhol with all the different colors.
Right now.
So it's like,
all of my keyword searches and research show that people want colorful dog art prints. That's what they want.
So
however, a lot of artists beat me to it as far as kind of capitalizing on that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's understand. But at the same time, if I'm you and I'm as good as you are, and it takes me 3 hours to crank one out, then
I could
it's probably worth. And it's probably worth investing investing some time in some new styles that are,
Mhm.
you know, more updated and fitting, and see if the print sales work that way. So that's one. Number
Totally.
two, you know, and I make this rant all day long because it's important. When you have an e-commerce business, there's only 3 ways to grow it, right? There's only 3 ways to grow it. That's it. You can get new customers in the door, which is the one that everybody obviously focuses on all the time. You can increase what's called AOV, your average order value. The way most people think about that is, before you would go into McDonald's and you would just get a burger. Now you go into McDonald's, what do they ask you? Do you want fries with that, right? They say, do you want fries with that, so they can increase your AOV? Or every time you go into a store and you're waiting in line and they have those little aisles of crap and knickknacks and stupid things on the side,
Yeah.
it's to increase AOV, right? So you were going in to spend $10, now you're spending 20 or 30 or 40. So that's the second way. The third way is to get your existing customers to spend more. But the AOV play is what I'm interested in you. And I would say, have you seen prints getting embellished? You order a canvas print of one of your dogs, and then you paint on top of it for about 25 minutes, and it makes a new and unique hybrid print / original. You know, there is some original to it. It's not all just a print. And as such, you can really crank the pricing up. And we have, Chris, send her a link to Laka site. We've got this one artist, Matthew Laka, who has this crazy, he's Canadian too, actually. He's in Quebec. But he's got this crazy impasto style that just doesn't translate to prints. It just does not translate to print. His original business is great. His print business, terrible. He started ordering canvas prints, threw some of his impasto on top of it, and now he's selling these things for $600 to $1,200. And do you know how many prints you would have to sell to equate the revenue of even one of these oil-on prints? Yeah, you do. So I would contemplate adding that into my repertoire for sure. But I think, all told, you have Google Ads working. That's fantastic. I would really attempt to max that out. I would spread across the provinces. If I did hit this dog niche, and let's say I had originals that were really colorful, and then I did, you know, Matthew, whatever you call them, embellishing. Matthew calls them oil-on prints.
Yeah.
I would put a catalog together, and I would probably go on to Fiverr or one of the outsourcing sites. I would have somebody get me a list of every single solitary veterinarian in the entire country of Canada, and I would send a catalog to every one of them. I could maybe start with 50 of them and see if you got the ROI. But that would be an idea that I would try too. But yeah, in terms of going back to where we were, like prints of someone else's dog, I'm not buying that. I don't care. I don't want someone else's dog. I don't even care if it slightly looks like my dog. So I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't sweat that part of it. I think the market's giving you the answer on that, and I would start hammering these other ones.
Right.
And I would definitely start with the laminated things on the bags, and I would just, you know,
You'd start
blanket
with
Canada. Your original idea. Yeah. Love it. Love that. You know how much competition you have in that one? Very little.
Very little. Yes, it's great.
Yeah, and the AdWords is the easiest to scale, more than likely. But you got 2 things working. Do them both. You know.
Yeah.
I got a couple more thoughts from you, for you, Zann. On top of what Pat was saying, number one, if you research, like if you go on to like, I'm sure you've done this, but if you do Google searches of like, you know, dog paintings and things like that, go to like art.com and go to greatbigcanvas.com
and see what sells.
Yeah, go to the best sellers and see what animal type of art, even if it's not dogs, see what the best sellers are, and then you'll see what type of style is moving
currently
online.
Selling. Yeah, I have done that, and I've taken a look at that.
Okay. And then when it comes to that type of stuff, I think the important thing to look at when it comes to prints in general, and also when it comes to other styles, painting other styles of dogs, you want to like mentally view that as like a growth area, right? Like your core business, 80% of your time or 90%, like I always say the 80-20 rule, right? 80% at least of your time should be spent on what is working. The 20% can be spent testing and iterating on all these different things, right? Prints, new content, things like that. So it's a good mental thing to have. Like that's because those growth areas could potentially, send you to the moon at some point, right? So
Yeah.
it's always good to have like new things that you're testing, but you want to make sure
Don't
you're
spend all your time on them. Yeah.
Yes, mentally you want to go like, okay, my core business, I've got to water that business. I got to tend to that first. And if I don't have any extra time, then I'm not going to be working on any growth areas, period.
Yeah.
Right. So then the next thing is that, like another mental thought to have is if you max out, your current business, of doing the portraits and stuff, the way that we're talking about, you're going to have a lot of extra income there. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, or at least a decent amount to where you wouldn't even like, you could hire, for example, John Lechner, in our community, who's taking, like, he's doing Meg Knappenberger's marketing now, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's doing marketing for people who, for some of the clients,
I could outsource my experiments.
You can outsource it and let him test it. Somebody who's just doing it while you're focused on building your business. Like you might be able to just, you go get another extra client a month right now in your regular business, and you could use those funds to pay him and let him try to find a niche and build your Art Storefronts business, send out all your emails and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? So when you think about it that way, you realize that the core business that is working is your growth engine to do other things, right? To get to where you want. So it's a really interesting mind frame to have. The other part too is, you should be able to, and you should think about ways that you can utilize like the original art feature, the augmented reality, like with the original art, to help drive your custom portrait business, right?
That's something that I don't actually have active on my site. When I first started this, it was like let's see if I can crack the traffic nut before investing in all the bells and whistles.
Sure.
And so I don't actually have that tool.
Okay, well, Emily, let's just go ahead and upgrade her for free.
That'd be awesome.
Yep. So we're gonna upgrade you for free, and get her on the top plan for me. Because what I'm thinking there, Zann, is like, gosh, when you're in person, when you're anywhere, like when you're putting these posters up, I mean, you could have a QR code,
that would be amazing.
And these people, even when just as a sales tool for these people to be able to, you put up some work on there, and it's not for them to buy the original right off the site. It's literally just so that they can see it on their own wall and show it to their husband or their wife or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
It's another differentiator. And then obviously for this Google Ads traffic, for people to be able to see that, it just takes them further down the funnel. So, and gives you more credibility. You could really build yourself as like the custom dog portrait, like, master, like the epicenter of this,
Mm-hmm.
So, I think, and then like the AR, like that stuff is it's so cool, that when you weave it into your marketing,
it is like, enough that people want to see it. And that is a really cool thing. Like you can even just take screenshots of testing it out, and that's your marketing for the day. That's your Instagram post.
Yeah, exactly. You send that out and it's like, hey, hey, golden retriever lovers, check out this custom portrait I just did for my client, Dave, in so-and-so. You make it personal, right? Mm-hmm. Click here. You can try it on your wall. By the way, custom portraits, go here to see, like all my custom portrait options or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
But these people can instantly like click on it, try it out, use the wall preview, use the AR, do whatever. And, that might get the conversation started in their house to get one of these things done.
Yeah, totally.
And then what's interesting about that too is whether you want to do this or not, you could actually lead with those like on the original art page, and then link to like you can just have a little subtle link there that's like, hey, I also sell prints here, and you just click, they click the link. And
that's what I've got right now. And I think I'd like to put that forward for every time I release a new piece and do a process video on it, is have that on the blog post, so that if people really love that piece, they can go and, they've got an interesting reason to go see more. Be like, not just, do you want to buy a print, but go over to this site and you can see it in your house.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the side-by-side feature, like where you can sell like an original, like there's a tab for originals and then there's a tab
Yeah.
for prints?
I've got that. I've got all my, all the ones that I've still got the originals for. I've got them hooked up to their print counterparts on the site.
Okay, cool. And do you, so what you may want to, you may be doing this, but you may want to consider leading with the original, like that's the one that appears when the page loads,
Right.
Because it sounds like everything is starting with these custom portraits and it's going downward from there. So there's no reason to prioritize the prints,
Yeah, that's a good point.
when that's just a smaller part of your business. So the people land on the page, they see the original. You should have a link for custom portraits right there. So it's like, they go right to that page, but they're able to try it on their wall right there. And then, you've got the whole funnel essentially right there. They try it on their wall and it's like, hey, if you like it, click this link and fill out this form, right? To start the process, or however you do that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. I like these things that can link the two.
You also could, I'm not sure if there's a reason to have the other site. Is there anything on here that's necessary? I guess it's because you've got you've got the dedicated homepage and you're driving traffic to it. So that actually does make sense.
Mm-hmm. The landing pages are good. Like I've got, as much as I've got on that homepage as kind of just my setup as a sales funnel, each of the galleries is set up to be like focused on dog portraits, cat portraits, pet portraits, horse portraits. And I tweak them a lot. Like I do kind of edit how that funnel works a lot. And so I've got the flexibility to do that. For my Art Storefronts one, it's not as easy to edit things visually. If I want to make more of a sales funnel on those pages, it's more difficult.
Yeah, it's not meant for, we actually have a new feature coming here in a couple of weeks. That's like specifically, we call them experience pages, where you can build like those long form, like full screen kind of, what do you call them? Like blocks, like going down the page.
Yeah, totally. WordPress style.
Yeah, but still, you're right. Like we're not like, it's not really meant necessarily for that. But
it's a great, like what I kind of what is forming in my head is a picture where I've got my custom portrait site that is very getting people to picture the process of ordering a portrait as a fun thing in their head. And then I've got my print store, and that as the store aspect where people can buy extra things. And so every time I've got some traffic going to my custom site, and I've got the opportunity to either scoop up a customer who's not in the price point for custom work, or to get additional sales from someone who's bought a custom portrait. Those are opportunities where I can scoop people back over to my store and say, oh, you like this painting that you bought for your parents, but you want one for yourself, but you don't want to spend another $600 on it. Here's a way that you can buy it for $60.
Right. Exactly. You could be linking back and forth and do all sorts of creative stuff.
Yeah, I do like having the two sites. Like I really like having one that's capable of taking payments if I can, get.
Yeah, well, you can also like there's other creative things, like you can have a link that opens the live preview like on the spot. So like on your custom portrait site, you can have a link that immediately
opens it in a pop-up or something.
Exactly. Like if they're on a phone, it'll open it for them right on the spot, without
cool.
the whole buying page, and like they don't have to
that's really cool.
Yeah. So there's stuff like
that.
There's stuff like that you'll be able to do. And the last thing I wanted to tell you though is like Pat was talking about perspective, right? Like it takes a while to like build up a business, and you had mentioned in one of your emails like it's going to take me 10 years or 5 years. I forget what it was, right?
Being able to measure that progress, if you can see the end goal, it's great. I mean, the great thing and the terrible thing with online marketing is that it has a tendency to be parabolic instead of linear.
That's correct.
Not always, but being able to say, if I do this thing for this many years, I can see where I can start to make progress. And if you don't have that, then it's all shots in the dark. It's all, well, I can't measure whether line drawings will sell better than oil paintings because I haven't sold any of either, or I've sold one, and one data point is useless.
Right. Yeah. So what I was going to tell you there is that from everything that I saw, like, you've started building traffic. You want to get emails, and I sent you saw the video that I made for you, so you saw the advice in there. But
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, the biggest problem was the homepage thing, in my opinion. But like, it seemed to me like you were on the right track. But it's just gonna, this is a startup. Your prints business is a infant, brand new baby startup, right? Within this bigger business, let's call it, that you have that's already working, right? And that's all it is, right? So it's the very, very beginning of like you trying to build an online audience and all that different stuff. And you're totally correct. I think the way that almost any business tends to work is a little bit more parabolic. It's not necessarily like it looks more
not a huge parabola, but it is, you get little spurts, if you will. You get growth spurts, and then it kind of stays there for a bit, and then you get a spurt, and then it stays there for a bit. But you don't get the spurts if you don't keep putting the effort in while you stay there for a bit.
Yeah, and I think the key word in there is compounding, right? Like over time, you get the benefits of compounding, and which means other people know about you. There's more word of mouth. There's people who place second orders, and all of that stacks on top of each other. As your email list gets bigger, and as your social following gets bigger, and you run more contests, and you do the things that we're advising, they all compound on each other. And like, your current list, is going to help you build a bigger list in the next marketing initiatives, right?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we are, like, I think on the whole, like, we are taking like the traffic generation aspect for online like really, really seriously this year.
Cool.
And yeah, so like, you'll notice that on the art marketing calendar, like on, I think it's January 15th.
There's a lot of stuff in there now. I really like that.
Specifically, we're really honing in on these contests for everybody, and the creativity that can be ran around these contests all year long, so that they're not just the same thing, but they're different. But I mean, we have ran contests ourselves for, customers, and for our, like, on our own. And like, I mean, the results are just insane. So we're not just saying this like just to do it. I've even ran contests for one of my other companies, and it works. It doesn't matter what business it is. They work like crazy.
Here's my biggest question about running contests. Okay, well, actually, I've got two, because I've done a couple of them. I haven't done one online that's been successful.
We'd have to look at like how you executed it, maybe to see what it was, because there's no reason why you shouldn't have it. And I mean, honestly, do you know what I would tell you right now? Your next contest should be to win a custom pet portrait.
Yeah, those are very, very successful. Those. Yeah.
Like, really, again, like, let's focus on what's working. Let's use the marketing that we're giving you, but do it with what's working right now, right? Like, and put the prints on the back burner. Yep. In fact, you could do the custom pet portrait. I mean, the right execution on the pet portrait is you do the pet portrait, somebody wins, and then obviously you give everybody a discount for 3 days to buy a pet portrait from you, or 5 days, whatever it is, who opted into the contest. And then you also give them a discount that expires on the prints as well. Yeah. You lead with the custom pet portrait, because that's your core business.
Yeah, I think that as a refocus works really well. The thing that kind of got me stuck on doing contests was that almost all of everything I could find that I followed advised kind of marketing these contests to an audience you have, your followers, your page, groups that you're part of, your email list. but reaching new people, like if you've got a follower count of 200, there's only so far you can go with that.
There is, but you can
Using,
also put like what we're advising this time around is you putting some ads behind it.
yeah, I would totally put ads behind it, and having the ability to go from cold. Like it's not where you want to be starting, but if you can go from cold, then and work the whole way up, you can just nip off the cold parts as you don't need them anymore, or don't if you want to, keep doing that. But yeah, when I was looking at the very first time I saw it's time to do a giveaway leading up to Black Friday sale. How to do it without an existing following was one of the kind of blocking points, and the other was just that the Facebook interface had changed, and they change so frequently and they change their rules so often that I can imagine that it is a massive pain in the butt to stay up to date with that. But as soon as it kind of, you lose a piece or you're trying to, hit okay when the okay button's gone, it can really throw a spanner in the works.
Oh, no question. We've got, that's happened to myself plenty of times.
Yeah.
But
that's a tough one though, because they do change it just.
It is. They all do. Like MailChimp, all these guys. It's a moving target.
Yeah. Yeah.
But overall, the what we're doing right now, like what I would say right now is, if you were going, like, let's say, and we can do this. We can do this as well if you'd like to. Invite us to. We have an account, artstorefronts@gmail.com. I think that's. No, actually, I think we have to get invited individually. Pat and Chris, you guys could advise me on that, but we would want to look at your Facebook account, to help you through this, because we have done this with, we want everybody to be running the contest. And if you're willing to put some ads behind it and spend a little bit of money, we want, and it's not working, we need to see exactly everything. We need to see your post, the contest, how you're running it, just literally just audit the entire stack,
Cool. Yeah, totally.
And we can do that. I was going to say, we could go back and look at the past, but maybe let's just start right here forward and look at what you've got, because another issue very well might have been whatever image you had on there, like Pat was saying earlier, if you were selling prints and you had one of your prints of a certain breed, and it wasn't that person's dog, maybe that just didn't connect. But the custom thing, if you're showing any breed and you're like, I do custom paintings of
that makes a huge difference.
That's a whole different type of a contest. It's like, wait a minute, I might want one of these of my dog. I mean, because gosh, what an incredible gift. What an incredible gift for a husband.
They go over so well as gifts. People always cry.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You're talented, Zann. I'm a fan. I got to tell you. I told you that in the video, but it was very clear to me right when I came to the website. I unfortunately don't have a dog anymore. Yeah, my Shar-Pei passed away a couple years back. That I had gotten for my wife 2 years after we met. But there's the jungle drums are beating in the house. I've got 3 daughters. They all want a dog. We're gonna, we'll see what's happening.
Can't hold off forever.
You can't. Pat, did you have any thoughts on the contest or anything like that?
If you get a dog, just get a walking commitment out of your kids and or wife. I failed in that department. I'm doing all the walking here.
Yeah, it's gonna pull back on me no matter what.
Yeah. Oh, get a dog. I'll walk it all the time, she said. Doesn't walk that dog ever. No, I think that sums it up. That gives you more than enough to chew on in the short term.
Yeah, totally.
You got some good problems. You got plenty of things to execute on, and we'll continue with all the education, which is great stuff to follow. And in terms of the contest and cold, you said one thing. If you follow our playbook, there's ways to encourage people to share it, which is how you get them to share it with their networks, which is perhaps one of the most important parts about it.
Mm-hmm.
The most important part, because that's what makes the contest go viral.
That's something that I'd like to kind of I'm sure it'll come out in the new marketing kind of playbook on that. One other thing that I would find very helpful in those is if there's a way to have kind of like in the art marketing calendar, you've got the bits in red that are like you must do this part in order for it to work part. You know, you have to put the discount code up. You have to send an email about it. For the contests, if there's like the fastest way to do a contest is start with a post, announce that you're doing a contest, send it out to groups, put an ad behind it, and kind of that's the basis of it. If you want to make it more effective, do a video, do the messenger thing, you know, find ways to build on it. And that would just be like it's so much easier to do something and improve it once you've done it once. But sometimes if you try and do the whole thing and it's all very all or nothing, perfect becomes the enemy of good and nothing gets done.
It's great feedback.
I think that might have been one of the issues I had with the funnel checklist was just, well, I've got to get to this 500 visitors a month before I look at my conversions. And it was like, no, you know, you could probably look at that before you get to that point or while you're trying to get to that point.
Yeah, that's great feedback.
Mm.
Okay.
I would totally do a contest, you know, every month if it was as simple as making a post and pumping some ads into it.
Yeah, and we're having a lot of internal discussion about everything that you're talking about right now because we're hearing it, you know, from people like you, and we want, like, there's nothing more that we want than everybody doing marketing because it's the only way people are going to be successful, you
Totally.
know? And so we got, like, our job is to make it as easy as possible, and to implement, like, you know, like the thought process that you just mentioned, right? Like start with something that's doable and easy so that the cognitive load is less on the first time that you do it.
Yeah, totally. It's a lot easier to build from. And yeah, like I was thinking what I would be looking for if I was someone who came into this with an audience and I didn't know how to sell to them is different than me coming into it with no audience. But the small audience I have, I know how to sell to. It's like, you know, you almost want different streamlines for like, I'm trying to build my audience or I'm trying to sell to my audience or, you know, here's the baby steps of running an ad campaign. Don't set up 15 different AdWords in Google. Just do one, run one ad.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. But, you know, when I do get to the things that I have been able to follow the whole way through, like the MailChimp campaigns with the templates, those were incredibly helpful. Like I probably wouldn't have been able to get a good MailChimp newsletter running without those. That was the start to finish and the completeness of it made it easy.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
Yeah. So thanks for those.
All right. So I think we can leave it there unless, Zann, do you have any other questions?
No, I have questions. I've got a new focus to go work on. This is great.
I know. And you know what? Like, all you got to do in the group, you know, make a post, you know, if you need to, you know, like if you can mention any of us, and, you know, if we're not there, if you just ping, you know, Chris or Emily or something, and, you know, to follow up on some of this advice, because I'm excited to like stay in touch and hear how you do over time, you know, because there's nothing more that I love than to see that, you know, when
they find the thing that works and run with it.
Yeah, you focus on your business, and then there's an old friend of mine that I sat down with, like it was funny. It was like a year ago, and we have coffee like once a year. And the advice I gave him a year ago, and we practically don't even talk for an entire year. I sat down with him for coffee a year later, and he's like, I just followed your advice like the whole year, and I 4X'd my business. And I was like, are you kidding? you could have told me, like, you know, that it was working for you 3 or 4 months in. Like,
yeah.
This news. It was great to hear. But yeah, like if I do not care what you sell or how you sell it, Zann. I want you to be successful. You know, I don't care if you sell no prints. Like if we can help you be successful in any way that is, that's all that matters.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna double down on my things that are working, and I'm gonna go and make some Craigslist ads.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. So have a great weekend, and we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you all so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I feel very optimistic. And thank you.
You are more than welcome. You are more than welcome. All right. We'll talk to you later.
Cheers.
Okay. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Ciao.